Jennifer Wright, CAHRC, Canadian Agriculture Human Resource Council, another very good friend of ours, so thank you, Jennifer.
Great, thank you very much, and thanks so much for having me. Really looking forward to the conversation and to sharing some, kind of building on what Nancy started with some of the data, and bringing it down right to the agriculture and nursery and landscape level as well. So as my presentation's coming up, I'll just, for those of you that don't know the Canadian Agriculture Human Resource Council, we're a national nonprofit organization. We work with industry to look at labor market, workforce issues, provide tools, resources, workforce development support, and that type of thing. We're very pleased and very fortunate to have CNLA to be both a board member and a partner, and Anita Haver is our CNLA rep on our board, and she does a fantastic job. She's also our governance chair, so she's really involved in the work that we're doing. And also very thankful for the amount of time that Leslie spends with us as well. All the work that we do is industry-led, so everything that we put out is vetted by industry, built by industry, and Leslie represents the nursery and landscape sector very, very well around many of our tables, so that's very much appreciated. There, all right, so that's who we are, great. We'll just keep moving. One of the things that we have been doing as well, we obviously do a lot of work around the labor shortage. We have been working for almost 3 years now, bringing industry together from across the value chain on a workforce strategic plan. Again, looking at that, at the challenging issues from various aspects, from skill development, the impact of digitalization, technology, and automation, perceptions and workplace culture, people and their perceptions of the industry and how we can attract the, understand that when we're attracting people that haven't worked in our industry in the past. Also, obviously, looking at immigration and foreign workers very closely as well, and skill development. So we've just completed some we've just completed our most recent round of labor market research, and with that research we update it from a national, regional, provincial, and commodity base. All of those reports will be coming out in the coming weeks, but I thought I would just share a little bit of information with you today so that you kind of have an idea. I know you're feeling the labor shortages, and I always feel a little bit funny talking about labor shortages in a room full of employers that feel it every day. But hopefully you'll find this information helpful for things like your LMIAs, things like when you're looking at trying to get policy change through an industry association level. We also use this information quite a bit to share with Nancy and her folks around, the need for foreign workers, where they're needed, and occupational classifications and what the occupations truly mean at an industry level. So we have just finished that process. Many of you may have been contacted to complete surveys, which we really appreciate. The more we get industry input, the better the data is out, and so we appreciate you taking that time. And then those outputs, as I said, it will come out in reports, but we'll also have, we're updating our dashboard, so you'll be able to go in and pull out customized data for the industry. And then we're looking at building that down a little bit more so you can get even more customized information. So when we jump right into it, if we look at the whole agriculture industry, the research shows that in 2022, the GDP for the agriculture sector was around $38.8 billion. However, because of the labor shortages, we lost around $3.5 billion in sales. I can say that that $3.5 billion has increased from $3 billion in 2018. So it's not, each employer may feel like they're having a shortage and, maybe doing a little bit more every day and, or making decisions on expansion or how much you're going to, try to sell or produce in a year. And you may be deciding to dial that back, and you may think, well, this is just me. When you roll that up across the industry and across all the commodities, it comes out to be a pretty big number. And I believe in sorry, I'll just go back one. I believe, we'll see this on another slide, but I believe in the nursery landscape and floriculture industry, it was around 500 million in lost sales. So that's pretty significant. And, you know, when we look at what our employers are telling us through the surveys, 44% aren't finding enough workers. The vacancy rate is higher than the overall vacancy rate across Canada. And there is a significant increase in reliance on bringing in farm workers, temporary farm workers, and seasonal agriculture workers as well to help really fill that gap. And when we look at it, again, this is more around the lost sales. Whoops. So you see where, with our data, we have nursery, floriculture, and ornamentals in together. Sometimes it's hard to pull the data down into really more granular pieces, but if we look at that line on its own, it is around 500 million in lost sales because of the labor shortage. As well as we look forward, we know that there's going to be, you know, retirements. We know that there's also anticipated growth across the industry, and with that, we are seeing that that labor gap we're experiencing right now will continue to grow. And there's a number of reasons for that. Some of it's retirement, some of it is growth in across the industry, and some of it is just every industry in Canada right now seems to be facing a labor shortage for many of the same reasons around retirements and growth. And so we just have more challenge in trying to attract from that labor pool to work in the industry and to retain them in the industry. Again, by province, again, probably not that surprising. The largest province with the largest population has the largest shortage. We'll just kind of skip by that. Sorry, just make sure I'm on the. And when we're asking employers around how the applicants are coming in, applications are coming in, obviously seeing that fewer and fewer Canadians are applying to jobs. And again, this just shows a comparison, kind of breaks down where the shortages are and where nursery, floriculture, and ornamentals fall in. From our employer survey, you can see that it's about middle of the pack, but very much along the same trends as what's happening across the agriculture industry as a whole. And, you know, we talked about retirements. Nancy mentioned the impact of retirements as well. We have an aging workforce. I think right now in agriculture as a whole, the average age is around 58. And of course, that's a trend that we haven't seen change much. It's only getting older, and it's not getting younger. So again, when we look at your industry or your commodity specifically within agriculture, you're right there with everyone else. And, you know, this again isn't surprising. One of the reasons given for having challenges attracting workers is that for a lot of Canadians, doing manual labor is not what they want to be doing. And seasonality, working outside and all that kind of thing are things that are part of the agriculture industry pretty much in every commodity. And it definitely becomes one of the top five factors of why employers are reporting challenges. All right, and of course, this is more of a seasonal industry, so you can see that those vacancies are higher in the seasonal commodities as well, and that turnover in the nursery, horticulture, and floriculture and ornamentals commodity line is on the higher end compared to some of the others, not outdoing poultry and egg or support services, but definitely a bit on that higher end as well. Kind of tells you the same story. So if we look at specifically at greenhouse, nursery, and floriculture, our data is showing that there's been an increased use of temporary foreign workers, as we all know. Foreign workers either on the permanent pathway to permanency on a temporary basis or on a seasonal basis. And that when we look forward to 2030, we anticipate that dependency or engaging foreign workers is going to only increase. But even with that amount of foreign labor coming in to help address some of those shortages, we're still seeing a gap. and that gap is still having a significant impact on the labor shortages, as well as on the viability and growth of the industry as well. I'd be interested, Nancy, to know if with your looking at some of those occupations being even with your data, if it's taking into account foreign workers addressing some of the vacancies.
They do have immigration, but they don't all get temporary foreign workers are included.
Okay, that's good to know, because in our data comes from StatsCan, Census of Agriculture, a few other economic indicators, as well as what the employer survey tells us. And so Conference Board of Canada does that for us and kind of puts it together in an economic model. So we do see a shortage coming in being experienced and continuing to grow in occupations for nursery and landscape. So again, this is a bit of a more broader, drilled down look at looking at using temporary foreign workers. About 68% of our employers that responded to the survey indicated that this is definitely a source of labor. And some of the factors contributing to the gap, I always like showing this one because we ask the question to employers and we ask it to employees. So it's kind of like, do the employers, what they feel like is happening and why, it might be hard to retain workers or attract workers, and what do the workers feel? And so, not necessarily all that far off, although employers are feeling like it's low pay and benefits that isn't attracting people as much, whereas the workers are like, that's not so bad. It may be one of the top reasons, but not the only reason. It's really the physical labor for the workers that are the challenge, from what our survey respondents told us. And, the outdoor work, things like, the things that we already have an idea, this is definitely some of the things that are impacting them. But there's other things that can be addressed, like transportation to work and that type of thing can be addressed as well. Attraction and retention. This is a bit more about, what the employees are saying that may be helpful as well. They do care about wages, but they also really care about career growth. And I know that's not always possible, especially in a seasonal operation, but if you're developing workers and providing them with some feedback, some on-the-job training in some cases, and that type of thing, it can help make them feel engaged and attached from an employment point of view, even when it's seasonal. They feel like they're, have that attachment and that investment from their employer, and they will come back. And when you look again at, we looked at that one already. But a lot of employers that are having success are focusing on mentorship. Again, I just kind of talked about that as a way, as leaders, to, kind of engage and invest day to day into the employees that you have. I know sometimes it can feel like I train them and then they leave, but there's that quote out there that is like, what if I don't train them and they stay, right? So making that investment is always, I think, worth the risk, because best case scenario, they're going to continue to be employed with you, they're going to be a better worker, they're going to be more efficient, they're going to do their job more skilled, you're going to have lower turnover, and all of those things will impact your bottom line in a very positive way. We also did some other research through some other projects that we were doing and surveying employers. And this was a survey that we did around workplace culture, and it was really focused on employers and some of the things that they are finding are working. So some of the things that are impacting retention, they're losing workers, that pay comes up again, wages comes up again. Even though the employees aren't necessarily reporting it as much, from a retention point of view, the employers are reporting they're losing workers around that. Benefits, jobs not what you expected. And that's a real key one. I know when we talk a lot about attraction and retention and you're trying to, get people to come work for you, you want to give them a pretty rosy picture of what it's like to work for you. You don't want to say, anything too negative, but if you provide a realistic picture of what it's like to work in the job that you're hiring for, it will help weed out the people that may not be necessarily aware or interested in that type of work. It's not going to be 100% perfect doing that, but it does help give a bit of a realistic view. I know there's, I often use this example of a berry farm near Ottawa where if you go on their website, it's like, we're hiring strawberry pickers. We pick strawberries early in the morning. Strawberries are low to the ground, so our pickers are, bending over. We pick on the weekends because when the strawberries are ripe, they're ripe. So it's not saying, it's just the facts about what the job's all about. So if you're going to apply, you have a pretty good picture. We're located 20 minutes outside of Ottawa, so there's no public transportation. Just the basic things that can really help give that information up front. So that might help on the retention side if the job's not what they expected to be, for example. The other thing that we really heard from employers that they were doing to increase retention, and this again is something that doesn't cost anything. It was just taking time to listen to their employees and taking time to hear what their needs were, engaging them in the conversation, asking them, instead of just giving them benefits and, trying to guess what was going to make their staff and employees happy, asking them what their employees would like to see, and then they felt engaged, felt like they were being listened to, and again, were more likely to stay with that employer, even if it was seasonal. So from CAHRC's perspective, I just also wanted to let you know that we do have some resources available as CNLA members. You have free access to our AHRC HR toolkit. We are just in the midst of updating this, and so it's going to be better, more resources in it, and you have a code that allows you to access that for free. We're also, by the end of March, we'll have a toolkit specific to AHRC business. So if you're feeling like, the primary production toolkit isn't exactly speaking to you and what you do on a day-to-day, there will be also an AHRC business one that'll be specific to more retail, sales, service, and that type of thing as well. We also have a number of new things coming out, again, to support employers for retention, attraction, increasing your workplace culture, increasing your HR best practices. We have had a little bit of HR learning available, self-directed e-learning. We have a whole suite of learning coming out. We also have some learning coming out around inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility specific to agriculture. And that will be tools, resources, and learning, kind of what you need. It's a suite of resources, so you'll be able to come in and use what you need, leave what you don't need. Have also recently launched a agriculture community of practice, again for that, for you to be able to log in and engage with other people. As Nancy mentioned, there's a lot of companies or a lot of employers that aren't that big and don't have their own HR department, but having a place to go on virtually ask questions to your peers that are also working in similar environments as you. There's webinars once a month. There's other access to HR consultants and things like that there as well. We have some supervisory and leadership training, and we do customized HR consulting for employers as well. So, we're not going to get through the labor shortage as an industry without collaborating. We continue to really try to encourage that and encourage the networks as much as we can, amplify what's working, identify the gaps, and try to work together with how we can address the gaps. And we do that, across Canada, across agriculture, but also commodity specific as well. And we very much appreciate, again, the feedback, the activity, the contribution that CNLA makes to the work that we're doing. And that's everything for now. I didn't even have a stand-up. Maybe I talked too fast. You were looking like you were going to get up. I was like, oh no.
We are actually about 10 minutes ahead because of everything. Do we want to take 10 minutes to ask questions of CAHRC and Nancy? And then we'll move into Lynn and give her till a break and as much time as she needs.
What's the contact? Who's the contact?
Leslie can send you the code, and you just, when you go on to access it, you just put in like your registration, and then it'll have a promo code, and you put in the CNLA 2024, is it? 2023?
And what's the cost?
As a CNLA member, it's free.
That's the right price.
And if the one thing about the toolkit, there's everything you need around HR management, but it can be a little bit daunting if you're not an HR practitioner. And I often say my mom and dad were farm equipment dealers, and they had 1,000 things on the go. And you know, my mom might have looked into the HR into the toolkit and been like, "This is everything I need," but I don't have time to figure it out. We do have support for that as well, so you can always contact us, and we can help you get it started as well.
Jennifer, I read something interesting the other day that said tablet learning was way more effective, and there was evidence to prove that, than actual face-to-face learning. And I questioned it. I sent it out to my team, haven't actually heard back from them on it, but the funny thing about it is that it seemed counterintuitive to me. Do you have any research on that?
I don't have specific research on that, but we do have some on-the-job training that kind of combines the tablet learning with hands-on learning. But I think it would depend on the role as far as what's most effective personally, and the type of learner that you are. It's a pretty broad stroke to say that tablet learning is best for everyone.
Again, a great question, Phil, but with even our own business, we've experienced the nature of the business, outdoor, hands-on. We've moved all of our training to either virtual or in classroom visual versus textbook or theory learning.
Yeah.
And we try to break it, as we encourage here, maybe many of our programs like Red Seal Apprenticeship, breaking it down to bite-sized pieces, because again, we're getting a way better satisfaction within our workforce, better uptake, and it seems to encourage retention as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I know your CNLA is working also to update some of the Red Seal training, I believe, as well. Yeah, which is great. Thank you. I'll be around this evening too if there's any other questions or if you want to ask anything just kind of one-on-one.
And Jennifer actually didn't do a lot of a sale pitch for some of the other services they provide. My company personally pocketed a fair chunk of change last year from CAHRC on some of their educational programs. There's one specifically, I sent Ann Cadwell the details, we've got it. But it had, this is primarily for growers, but it had like 30 modules, and for each employee you had to put them through 10 to get $7,500. It was easy. I shouldn't say this in front of her. It was easy money. Anyway, there's some good programs out there, and there's a lot available through CAHRC, so feel free to reach out to the CNLA office, particularly those that, like Leslie and that work closely with CAHRC, for information about some of those programs.